Alright, welcome to Guadeloupe. It's like a bit of a cloudy day here today. We're going to do a quick little flight here on Anguilla Air Services. I'll do one thing I forgot to do here, which is to turn off or put on silent mode my... Okay, so anyway, let's go. Rotating beacon on. Mixtures to idle. Props full forward. I have no idea why that prop just moved as I pulled the mixtures back. Let's go master and battery on. Let's go fuel pumps and fuel valves on. Let's go magnetos on. And I know that's not 100% correct as far as how to do this on this airplane. Let's prime the engines, go through the throttle movement 4 times. 2, 3, and 4. Throttles back. Let's put the let's crack the throttles. Alright, so now what we want to do is hit the starboard starter. And when the engine catches, we come in with the mixture. And that should hold nicely. Oil pressure is good. Fuel pressure is building up here. Alright, let's take the starboard side starter. Come in with the mixture. Check the oil pressure. Oil pressures are good. We can come back a bit on the throttles. Turn on the avionics and master switches. Taxi light, rotating beacon, excuse me, nav and strobe lights. Alright, so it's going to be a real short hop today, 10 miles. Heading is going to be 092, which is pretty much our takeoff. Pretty much the runway heading, right when we take off. Alright, so we're going to put in 122.8 on the radio because we are on VATSIM. Because why wouldn't you be on VATSIM? VATSIM is awesome. So 122.8 on VATSIM, transponder, squawk altitude. Alright, so I'm not quite familiar with this airport, so hopefully we can go up there and access the runway. Alright, so let's lean the mixtures for taxi. We can turn the fuel pumps off. Put the starter hood down there. Alright. Let's give it a little bit of gas. Oh wait, you know what we have to do? We have to engage the brakes, which I did. But you have to turn the parking brake off, which I did not do. Alright, and so we are taxiing. And as soon as you start taxiing, you hit the brakes. To make sure that the brakes are working. You should always do that. Very good habit to get into, because the one time you don't do it is the time that your brakes are going to fail and you're going to get rolling, and the only way to come to a stop is to hit something. And that's no good at all. Now, let's see here. So we've got Saint Francois. That's the name of this field. And Désirade is the field that we're going to. Alright, you want to know the names of your airports, right? For especially uncontrolled fields. Alright, so coming around here. I'm not going to do a run-up or anything. We're just going to get on the old runway and get things started here. Alright, so we're going to turn the landing light on. You always want your landing light on under 10,000 feet. It makes it easier to see. Turn the fuel pumps on. I'll put the mixtures rich here in a second. First notch of flaps down. Alright, so I don't see anything on final. Runway looks clear. Any sort of power problems on the runway. We are going to bring the throttles back to idle and come to a stop on the ground using the brakes once we're airborne. If we have a single engine flame out, we're going to go to the single engine climb speed, which is the blue line on the airspeed indicator. And we're going to climb at that airspeed. Alright, so Saint Francois traffic, Anguilla 264 taking runway 11 for departure to the east, Saint Francois. Alright, mixture, let's come to a stop here. Alright, the runway the heading indicator checks for the runway. Fuel pumps and fuel valves are on, mixtures rich, props full forward. I'm going to bring the props forward. We're going to do kind of a short field takeoff here. Alright, takeoff power is set, engine instruments all in the green. Release the brakes, and we roll it, kiddos. Alright, airspeed's alive, 70 knots, and rotate. Okay. Look at this, it's gorgeous. Alright, let's come up with those. Let's come up with the takeoff flaps, bring the power back to 2500, 25 squared. And there we are. Look at this, just gorgeous. Very, very pretty coastline here. Got the wind farm. Pay somewhat attention to what you're doing here. 1,000 feet AGL, we can turn the fuel pumps. No, don't turn the fuel valves off. That was a bad idea. Turn the fuel pumps off. And fuel pressures are good. That actually is a great example of one of the cardinal rules of flying. I want to talk about something you should never do. Do not ever flip a switch or move a lever without looking to see what it is that you're touching. I did that once in a real airplane, and I'll tell you this story here in a second. Power back to 2300. I did that once in a real airplane in a Piper Cherokee. I was leveling off at cruise altitude, as I'm doing now, and I went to pull the power back, and I was doing it by sound, just kind of listening to see, you know, hear the engine, you know, sound of power reduction on the engine. Well, I didn't hear anything, so I kept pulling back. I was pulling that lever out in the airplane that I was in. Let's see, 23 squared, there we go. Pulling that lever out in the airplane that I was in at the time, flying at the time. Nothing happened, so I pulled it out some more. Nothing happened, so I pulled it out some more. And then the engine started to cough and was about to quit. And what I was doing was pulling out the, mixture, not the throttle. You don't want to do that. That is not a smart move. So, It's one of those things that you know not to do, but sometimes you still do it anyway. It's one of those things. I mean, I guess you kind of have to do it once, and then you get it through your thick skull. Alright, so the flaps are up. The power is set. There is Guadeloupe. So as part of World Update 5, which Microsoft and Asobo just came out with, in addition to updating the Nordic countries of Finland, Norway, Sweden, and I don't know if they did Denmark or not. I think they did. But in addition to updating those countries, they also updated the French overseas territories, which includes Guadeloupe and Saint Martin's, and Martinique and Guyana. So I haven't done a whole lot of flying around Guadeloupe, and actually this is the second time that I've come down to fly around Guadeloupe and found clouds. And I think that probably the reason for that is, I'm going to do a little zip around this island here so we can check it out, and then we'll do a landing there on runway 9. But I think part of the reason why there are often clouds on this island is because there's a pretty big mountain, or range of mountains perhaps, in the middle of it. So there's the airport we're going to. It's going to be coming up here. Our left. Like I said, I want to do a quick turn around the island first. It's kind of a boxy shape in the water there, which is actually, you know what? That's probably from Désirade, this one, which I'm probably also pronouncing incorrectly, are both little custom sceneries that somebody did and uploaded to flightsim.to, which is really a great little website. There's a decent chance that's why there's this little line there. But you know what? I don't nitpick about things like this in Flight Simulator, because I mean, this is pretty darn realistic. You know, for sitting here in my humble home, getting to fly around the Caribbean in an Islander, I'm not going to complain about little software glitches. So there's some more windmills, which is pretty cool. This thing tell you your ground speed? It's in approach mode. It doesn't tell you your ground speed. Well, it probably does somewhere, but I just don't know where. Wow, look at that. That's really neat. The water effects are pretty awesome. The water masking, as the kids call it. And it's pretty neat. And when you enter a turn, you have to pull back on the yoke to maintain altitude. Why is that? That is because turns are accomplished by the horizontal component of lift, which is, in other words, the sideways component of lift. Look at that. So when you're flying straight and level like this, all of your lift is going straight up. That's what's holding your airplane up. And then when you turn the wings, not all of your lift is going straight up anymore. It's going in the direction of your turn, because the inside wing, this wing, loses lift. The outside wing, that wing, gains lift. That's how you turn. So essentially your lift is going that way, as opposed to when you're level, it's going that way. If that makes any sense. So you lose some of your vertical lift component when you're turning. So you have to pull back on the yoke to add more lift. Alright, so neat little tour of the island. You can see, so there's Guadeloupe out in front of us, and you can see that that mountain or mountain range that is covered by that cloud, you know, that cloud formation. So not terribly surprising, I suppose, right? So how best to approach this? I would imagine, if anything, it's the right traffic pattern to get into this airport, because left traffic would be kind of odd coming around this mountain. But alright. Désirade traffic, Anguilla 264 on a left base runway 09er, Désirade. So, what we gonna do is let's bring the power back to 21. Let's bring the props back to 21. Start slowing the airplane down. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty good. So then we'll bring these back to 1800. Maintain that level flight attitude here. Trim for that. Airspeed should be coming back. There it is. Alright, now bring the power back to 1500. Keep pulling back on that nose, try to get into flap operating range. Désirade traffic, Anguilla 264 left base runway 9er, Désirade. So now put that first notch of flaps in. we are going to try to trim for 70 knots. Okay, got to trim for 70. All right, let's put the fuel pumps on. Mixture's rich. Get that airspeed where we want it, which is 70. Alright. Landing light on. Da, 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 da. Let's see here. Désirade traffic. Anguilla 264 turning final runway 9er Désirade. It's always better to turn final too soon than too late. So you have turned a little bit too soon here, so what I have to do is I have to kind of drift over a little bit more to the right. And that's preferable to doing it too late. You don't want to do it too late. If you turn too late, then what happens is usually you try to compensate by using the rudder to swing the nose around a little bit, and if you do that, you can cross control the airplane and stall it, and that's really not a good place to be. Low down. Alright, fuel pumps on. Mixtures are rich. I got the props in my hand. Airspeed is set at 70. I'm going to bring in a little bit of power, because I can see myself getting a little bit low. This airplane responds pretty well to any power input. I'm going to go props full forward. Okay. Power out a little bit. Keep that airspeed where we want it. A little bit of power. Power out a little bit. Airspeed is good. Add a little bit of power. Add a little bit of power. Add a little bit of power. Alright, now we're in good shape. Well, you know what? You're not. Look at that person waving there on the beach. How cool is that? That wasn't too bad. That wasn't too bad of a landing. I think... let's see, let's clean the mixtures a little bit for taxi. I'm really learning actually quite a bit about flying. Using Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I'll tell you how, because you know, this might sound a little strange, but one of the things that I've been learning is that you really have to make the airplane do what you want it to do. And in my real life flying, as well as in this simulator, I tend to be a little bit passive. Put the flaps up. I tend to be a little bit passive and kind of, instead of like, if I'm a couple hundred feet high, instead of pushing the nose down, you know, pulling out some power and getting it, just getting that couple hundred feet gone, get down to the altitude I want to be, or vice versa, if I'm a little bit low, like maybe 300-400 feet low, really put some power in and put the nose up, climb up to the power you want, or the altitude you want, and then, you know, level off. You know, and in this case, what I've been doing with this airplane, I've been struggling to land this airplane, and I really believe that the reason is because I'm not pitching for the airspeed I want and getting the airspeed I want and adjusting my power and pitch to maintain that airspeed and then using power to get that descent rate that I want. You know, I just kind of float around instead of, you know, really taking control of the airplane and making the airplane do what I want it to do. And on that particular approach right there, I put the power and the pitch where it needed to be to get me 70 knots and a comfortable descent rate and a good descent rate for the approach, instead of just, you know, putting the flaps in and seeing what it gave me and then kind of, you know, just being passive about it. And that really worked out pretty well. So this airport, like I said, let's pull the mixtures here. This airport, like I said, is a freeware airport done by somebody on flightsim.to, and I will put the link in the description. You got a little dude waving on the beach at the planes coming in, which I think is a great touch. But just, you know, nothing super intricate or anything, but it's just a really cute little, this is what I would expect this airport to look like, and it probably matches the real thing for all I know. But the person who did this did a fantastic job. Really enjoyed flying here today. Alright, mixture idle cutoff, throttles are idle. Let's turn our lights off. Let's turn the fuel valves off. Let's turn avionics off, the mags off, master switch off, and that is that. Cool flight. That was a fun one around Guadeloupe.